Before stepping down in May as NATO's top military commander, Admiral James Stavridis left his successor some advice: focus on cybersecurity.
In a recent interview with VOA correspondent Pessin, Admiral Stavridis ranked cyber attacks as NATO's #1 future threat. And as Al tells On Assignment's Doug Bernard, the Admiral is pushing a new idea: cyber deterrence. Let's start with some of Al's report.
Cyber attacks on corporations and governments are no longer unusual. Suspects and their computers are hauled away on a regular basis. That's why Admiral Stavridis sees cybersecurity as the top challenge for his successor.
Society is so dependent on all these cyber capabilities, and yet our level of preparation is very low, particularly as an alliance.
Now, cybersecurity can mean a lot of different things. This can be everything from nuisance hacking to full-on cyber combat, which we've not actually yet seen. So what does he mean when he talks about cybersecurity?
I think he means the whole gamut of what you're talking about. Of course, nuisance attacks are just a nuisance, but if there are enough of them, it becomes a bigger nuisance, and it drains resources, and it can slow down systems and can have real effects, even though you might put it in the category of nuisance attack. But of course, the bigger concern would be some sort of cyber attack that disabled a key infrastructure system like air traffic control, power generation and distribution, communications, command and control of defense forces. Those are the types of attacks that can have real world and devastating impacts and even cause death in some situations. It's also relatively easy. Anyone with decent computer skills can do it. At London City University, Professor Kevin Jones heads the Department of Computer Sciences. He says the internet makes it possible for anyone to be a terrorist.
That's sort of terrorism at a much more approachable level than even individuals carrying explosive devices, because people are doing it from the security of their own bedrooms.
It's really difficult for any government or any military to combat somebody who's possibly quite literally sitting in their own bedroom with a laptop computer and trying to do some damage. But Admiral Stavridis had this idea that what's needed is a theory of deterrence for cyber warfare. You've heard, I'm sure, of the theory of deterrence of nuclear warfare. That theory says that if you use a nuclear weapon on somebody, they'll use one back on you. You might destroy their country or their city, but yours will also be destroyed, and therefore you're deterred from doing it. Only, it is said, a madman or madwoman would order a nuclear attack on a large scale because their own country or city would be devastated. So if you put a theory like that into effect for cyber, it would essentially say that if you attack us through the world of cyber, damaging key cyber systems or physical systems, that we will have the capability to retaliate and do the same or worse to you. Deterrence could be achieved through threats of cyber or conventional attacks. Professor Jones thinks it just might work.
You could imagine setting up a situation where it's deemed far too risky to make an attack on country X's stock exchange, because the consequences are US systems will then be attacked and closed down in a certain way.
You mentioned the United States. Here in the US, the various branches of the military, Army, Navy, etc., are actively competing with one another to get a leg up in terms of their cyber either defense or even offensive capacity. Do you anticipate, or could you imagine such a thing happening in the NATO alliance, except not branches, but between actual governments competing with each other?
Well, this is another of the problems that Admiral Stavridis identified, and that is the sensitivity of various governments to sharing information and sharing technology on these sorts of issues. So what is needed is the kind of cooperation that you just pointed out doesn't really exist to a great extent. It exists at a certain level, but not at the most advanced and most sensitive levels. And so Admiral Stavridis thinks basically that the NATO allies, since that's the alliance that he worked for, that the NATO allies have to get over it and have to come to understand that there's more to be gained through this kind of cooperation, at least among allies, than there is to be lost.
VOA senior correspondent Al Pessin. At this point, no two nations have engaged in cyber war, but Admiral Stavridis warns it will happen, and when it does, it'll be difficult to prove where the attacks are originating.